Now let's talk about the column tool. So just double click on the column tool. So you will enter inside the settings dialog. Now remember, this column tool has been drastically changed if you try to use old release like release 20 or 21 probably. You will see the column and beam tools are having some limitations for the different settings or maybe variations in the output. So at present, the column now becomes a very interesting tool. We'll explore that step by step. So right now, you just check out, there are supposed to be several pages on the left side. So first page was a column, then segment, floor plan section, and so on. So every time you hit on the this particular page, this entire description about that particular selected page will be on your right side. So now I'll stay tuned with the column page for a while. Now, prior to that, one more thing which I want to explain about the segment, because by chance if your settings are not matching as per my screen, then you might even get some problems. So just check that in the segment page, you can, there are supposed to be two options. One is supposed to be single segment, other is supposed to be multi-segmented. So how it works? So if you check out, the single segmented is nothing but a single profile of the column will get projected towards the z-axis by default. So it can be a rectangular shape or a circular shape and something like that. But that will be just a single profile which is getting extruded. On other side, with the multi-segmented column, you can see I have just given one example, that a column which is having a footing also incorporated. So where you can see the PCC bed, then footing, and the column up to plinth, and above that, above the plinth. So the variations in the sizes or the shape, everything you can register over here. So that's supposed to be multi-segmented column. We will talk about this in detail, because lot many combinations one can generate by using this multi-segmented column. But at present, in the beginning level, we have to concentrate on single segmented column. So I hope now this is clear that you are working with the single segment. And then you can stay back with the first page column, where you can see there's supposed to be a cross section height of the column and cross section width of the column. Okay, so that is nothing but length and depth of the column and the width of the column which you're talking about. Then there is a link icon. If you want to keep these two values as a separate, what you can see, dimensions, you can remove this link. And see, for example, one side of my column is supposed to be 230, other side if I want to put 450, you can see now that becomes my altogether column for its profile shape. Now let's talk about the position. Position, you know it very well, because you have already seen how to place the wall. So a similar logic here is also applicable. Now your column, for its orientation, you just check that it is vertical, not slanted one. So we are going to work with this itself. In the second group over here, don't much worry about this. Later I'll let you know about what you mean by wrapping. And now here it is supposed to be top link of the column, that is where the top of the column is getting what you can see linked or projected. And how about the home story? That means where exactly you want to place this column, on which story it should be placed. And then altogether the height of the column, here you can see that's inactive field, like linked column height, that's inactive one, because at present it is linked. But then you will see I don't have any story at present on my end above the ground floor. That's absolutely fine. Later if you add something, it will get automatically linked to that, or otherwise if you say that I am not interested for any kind of a top link option to be get activated, then you can use this from the drop down as a not linked. Moment you say not link, you can see now your column height you can give as much as you want, because it's a free value now. So I'll put 3150 over here as my entire column height. My column will start from the home story as a ground floor, and it will get projected with the height of 3150. Okay. Now all the other details we are not going to talk about. Only thing, reference axis of core. This is something which you can even decide at the time of inserting the column in your, or placing the column in your see design. Now then you will see what exactly should I do it right now. As I'm saying, not needed. We'll talk about this on screen also. Axis rotation also I'll let you know on screen. Now, how about the other pages? Like, for example, the segment. Now, this is a single segment. That means the entire geometry which we have generated will go with a similar setting. For example, in structure group now, how the column should be. By default, it is rectangular. That's the reason we gave 230 and 450. If I put for the circular, obviously there's a diameter radius which you want to mention or a profile one. So complex profile is nothing but any eye section if you want to project and something like that. So anything which you draw in an XY plane will get projected towards the Z axis. So this also you can try later. Now building material, which is a very much important factor while designing any of the or while setting any of the tool, because in the wall tool we have already used the brick material. Now it's time to work with some different material, building material. So I'll click over here, and if you just go and check out this, the last material in my list is a reinforced concrete structure. If I stay on this, at the top you can see there is a 760 as the number for the what you can see its strength, which we can talk about. So that is not, that value is going to actually determine how this material is stronger than compared to other. For example, which we have taken last time, maybe we have taken the brick, which was 540 at the top, you can see, and this is reinforced concrete, this is 760. So this is going to be much stronger than compared to brick. How it will affect, I'll show you on screen, but just select this. After selecting this particular building material, now there's a one more setting known as a veneer to be get added or removed. This also I'm not going to suggest you to use it immediately. Altogether, no changes. My column is not going to be tapered for size also. It will be standard from its top to bottom. It is going to be constant, what you can say, for its size. Rest of things you don't have to worry at. Again, this fixed height and fixed flexible height, you don't have to worry about this. Okay, anyway, now in the model group, if you want to override the surface, you can. Otherwise, by default, whatever is there inside the building material, same surface will be utilized. We'll talk about this also later. Now, by chance, if you have designed the layer which is needed, so if in case you have added the required layer, you can change it, or otherwise you can change it later also. So this time I'll let you know how to add the layer afterwards and how to move the object from one layer to another. So for a while, let it be structural bearing as it is. I'm going to say OK for this. Moment I say OK for this, now you should remember that at the bottom of your screen it is written enter anchor point of column base. Okay, and then I have already told you that even you have to talk about the geometry method logic also. So there are supposed to be geometry method as a simple, then you have 2 clicks, and then you have something known as a rotated, and there is the last option which is normally useful in 3D directly if you're going to place the object in 3D, not for the two-dimensional level. So if you're not placing the column in the floor plan, but if you're using the column in the 3D window, then you can use the last option. So anyhow, I'm not going to change any of this thing. By default, whatever is the geometry method as a simple, I'm going to continue with the same. And because of this geometry method, the prompting is working at the bottom as an enter anchor point of column base. Now, before placing that column, you just have to make sure that you have to check the reference axis of the core, because that becomes your anchor point. Now, for the column, there are supposed to be 9 locations which they gave in. So right now that this is to the center of the column. Instead of that, if you see, I want to take it as a top left or top right, etc. So obviously, my first column, if I'm going to insert at this particular corner, what I'm going to probably do, I'm just going to take this top left as my anchor point, and then obviously, as the prompt says that enter anchor point of column base, I'm just going to use the check mark, and moment I get the check mark, I'll click, and you can see now the column is added. Okay. Obviously, because the column was having a stronger building material as a reinforced concrete, which was having its strength as supposed to be 760, the other building material wall, which was much lesser having its strength, so automatically it was deducted. That means wall were automatically deducted and the column was becoming a dominating member. Now, this was your first column which you have added. You should, later I'll even definitely introduce you about the ID and properties, because This is going to help you to give the proper number to the column like C1, C2, etc. Whatever is supposed to be as per your drawing needs. Let's try to push ourselves to the 3D window. You will see now how the column is working over here. So it is 150 above the wall height because wall height was 3 meter. Okay. Now apart from that, if you check the section, as long as this section is actually going to give you the reflection for that column, then you can actually get the benefit. Otherwise, you will not able to see anything in this. Fine. Let's try to add one more section. So I'll just try to go inside the viewpoint and I'll use the section tool with the same geometry method, single, and then if I just try to cut this geometry over here, that is supposed to be my structure, and eyeball cursor, which side you want to see after the cutting this structure, obviously on the upper side, and then my second section was generated, which was having by default name as the same one. We know it very well because we have given this in the default setting. So that's the reason it shows that living to kitchen. Now instead of that, you can say kitchen to this should work for. I can go for the arrow tool and I can select this section and I can rename this. I can rename it over here also. That it is supposed to be see kitchen to bedroom section. Okay, it's optional, but always better to give a proper name. So if I double click and if I open this, you can see now how my column is getting appeared over here. Okay, so this is 3150. This was supposed to be your 3 meter as the height for the wall. Now just back to the floor plan, and I'll explain few more things related to. So I've deselected my section which I was which one I have the one which I have selected. I have deselected that, and now I'm just going to show you how we can edit the column. What are the other benefits? Now, for some reason, if you are getting if you want to remove these reference lines for the wall, you can just definitely push yourself back to the pull down menu view, on screen view options, and from there you can see wall and beam reference lines. You are going to switch off them. So now you can see now your structure is looking very much simple, and your column is going to be dominating than the walls. Now if I want to copy this column or if I want to insert a new column, you can copy this also. Let's try to do that. So simply just select the column with the arrow tool. Now make sure arrow tool is selected. You stay anywhere on the column and you will see the column will get highlighted. And you can then single click and select that. You can see all selected one, which column is there. Now if you want to copy this, a very simple logic, just you have to go for Control Shift D. So I am going to put Control Shift D, drag a copy. You can see enter drag reference point. So I'm going to say this is supposed to be my drag reference point, and drag 2 points. So this is nothing but I'm going to get the perpendicular sign over here and I'm going to click that. So now my column was copied. So this is how our basic, what you can say, a very simple task which I have completed about how to copy the column. Same way I can select again these two columns, I can copy them, I can rotate them. So it's a very simple method which one can go for. Let's try to copy and rotate this column. So I'll just select this. Then you'll say why not to insert a new column. You can do that also. I'm just going to first of all put Control Shift D for copy the column selected one. And I'm going to select copy here from here to here. And then I'm going to rotate this or mirror this as per your choice you can do, and maybe I want to make it vertical instead of horizontal. So how can I do that? I can put Control E for the rotate. I'll give one base point. Then I'm going to select this and I'm going to just go and complete this for the rotation. Now remember, this could be one of the method because then you have to push this back. Okay. The other possibility, that means if in case if I say Control Z, and the other possibility is what? For just check, but not essentially it will be working exactly the way you want. If I am trying to give as my right side or this particular point, maybe top middle as my anchor point, you can see how it works now. Okay, and now if I use the rotation angle as a 90 degree, then it will get rotated, and then I can move this down also. So one can even use such things. So it solely depends on your what you can say editing techniques. So at present I'll keep this as it is to the anchor point reference axis of core as at the middle itself, and then I'll just try to push this from here to here. Okay, control D. So then what happened? You remember now, this is supposed to be a wall line or the outer periphery. My column was exactly aligned with that and along with this wall also. And if you check out, my midpoint of the column will not be exactly touching to the other edge of the wall. The reason is the wall was 230 and the half of the 450 is not exactly 230, obviously. So anyway, I hope you have understood how the basic editing can be get done. So you just have to use Control Shift D, then you can hold Shift key and you just touch with the check mark. So try to maintain the precision everywhere. So then there shouldn't be any error. Everything should be precise. Okay, so now this four columns are inserted. If you want, you can go back and check them in 3D, how they are looking for. Or same way, if in case your earlier section, if you check. So this was supposed to be my living to kitchen section, and there's one more section which was supposed to be living to, sorry, kitchen to bedroom. So altogether, this was supposed to be a basic introduction to the column tool. Now it's time to talk about some editing points related to column. For example, see if I select the column and if I'm going to copy this, Control Shift D, and after copying, if I have copied over here, because my staircase block is supposed to be here, maybe if I see that my column size is going to be slightly bigger than the earlier one, how can I do that? Okay, I can just select that and then I can change it over here also, or otherwise directly you can just scroll in your info box, and there also you can make it, maybe if you want to make this as a 600, so 600 becomes my column size. But again, remember the anchor point and that thing, it plays a very important role. So either you use the reference axis of core exact the one the way you want, or otherwise you might even fine tune just by using your drag and all such tools. Anyway, now my next point is how it can be get edited for some other things. The way I've changed the size. What about the other things? Say for example, if I click on the corner node of the column, you can see that apart from standard commands like drag, rotate, mirror, elevate, and multiply, there's another thing like rotate on axis, or you can have a stretch cross section width or stretch cross section height. So the way I've changed the depth, no, for the column or the width of the column, I've changed. I can do that over here also by this one or this one. So use the pet palette and get the best out of them. So anyway, I hope you have understood that clicking on the corner node and the pet palette, center node and the pet palette. So please try to follow them and get used to about the basic editing of the column, because ArchiCAD is very flexible about the editing and the consistency is there. Like if you study something, the pet palette concept, use the same one even if you want to edit different object, maybe wall, column, beam, slab. You will get every time the pet palette will help you a lot to solve your required what you can say editing problem. Anyway, now back to the floor plan. Sorry, in the 3D window, you can even press F3. And if I select the column over here, you can see now this is supposed to be your reference axis of the core. So it depends how you have placed it. So for this column, it is supposed to be the center. For this column, it is supposed to be in the corner. And then again, the logic of pet palette. So if I click on this particular end node, I'll get so much of variations. Okay. So please follow them. Please try to use them one at a time and understand how it works, because they are very simple. That's the reason I'm trying to give you what you can say, a quick clue for that. Now, if I click on some other node, I won't get those many combinations or variations. The reason was obviously that your reference access is going to be more, what you can see, powerful for its editing, then compared to other options will be more at that location compared to other. And if you click with the Mercedes cursor, you will get this split segment where you can make the selected column into a segmented one. Okay, but you have not studied the segmented yet, so later you can try this. So anyhow, the column tool which you have now seen, the last step which I want to add in this is at the for the basic level I'm talking about, how to move them on a required layer. So let's go back inside the layer command, and as I've told you that you don't worry about what is there on the right side, sorry, left side. So just keep it in the collapse format and just talk about this your right side only. Here I'll try to see new layer and I'll put column as the layer name. The extension was optional, like for example, if in case later you can actually go for example, if the columns are specially meant for working drawing reason, you can put extension as a working drawing so that you can isolate those layers very quickly. So we will again definitely talk about this also in detail later. So anyway, now column is my new layer and I'll say okay for this. Now, how to move all these columns on that respective layer? So I'll just go back to my column tool, okay, and once I go to the column tool, make sure the default setting is the wording. I'm working in 3D window. You can even do this into floor plan, so not an issue. But make sure default setting and that tool which you want to that objects which are the say for example in our current condition I want to select the all the columns in my project. So this same tool I should select, right? So I have selected my column tool default setting, that is in a draw mode, and then I'm going to hit Control A from the keyboard. Okay, Control A, select all, but what which is matching to my current tool which I have selected. So I have selected column tool right now. So all my columns which I have inserted in my project are automatically got selected. Now you can see here the layer name is written for that, that is the structural bearing. I don't want to keep them on that. Instead of that, I want to keep them on the column layer. So if I click on this now, my columns are, all the selected elements are shifted to the column layer. So now onward, my, what you can see, column which have already drawn, only they got selected, not something which I'm going to draw in future. So if I copy this column somewhere else, then definitely it will continue with the same layer because same properties or the parameters are continued. But if I insert a new one, that won't happen because if I deselect the object, because right now you can see it's selected 5, editable 5, this is what is shown over here in the info box. So if I use my escape key for a couple of times, you can see now default setting and back to structural bearing as this default layer on which the object is getting placed. So if you say no, I'm not interested to place my new objects, now here you are surprised why your objects are disappeared. How come my columns are not getting displayed if I return back to my floor plan? Same thing could have happened in the 3D also. But that's not happening over here because the layer which you have added, that was on in this 3D window setting. So if I go inside the 3D window and layering, you can see right now my column layer is on. Okay, hide or show, that is supposed to be the logic. So if I select this, you can see hide, I can use the show. So this is supposed to be show and hide button. Okay, so at present in 3D window it is supposed to be on, and if I go back to my floor plan, it is off by default because this layer was added later, and then probably ArchiCAD is trying to register that in a switch off mode. So you can see now here column by default it was switched off. So I can just on this, and if I say okay, I can get my columns back to my floor plan. Same thing could happen in your section also, because again that newly added layer which was by default off in the current viewport. So I'm just going to say okay for this on, and that is show, and then okay. So please try to follow the simple logic and get your objects on your screen. So I hope you have understood how to now insert the column, edit the column for the base level. Now, as I've told you, like if you want to put a new column, then by default it should be on the required layer. So my current layer was structural bearing for the column tool, which I'm not interested to continue further. So I can just click on this button and I'll get the list from where I'll use the column tool. Now remember, don't try to off this. From here you cannot off this and something. From here you can just select the layer. But if by chance if it is switched off, then probably AutoCAD will again prompt you at the time of insertion of the column that this layer which you have selected was a hidden. So what should be done, like how, whether it should be switched on or you want to choose some other layer. Anyway, I'll just return back to my column layer. Moment I click on the column, so my default setting now shows that my any new column which I'll insert will get added on my column layer. So just cross check about the anchor point and everything, and as per your need. Say for example, if I'm going to use this as my anchor point, and at the bottom of my structure I'm going to insert this. So that's the way you can start placing the column. So please complete this with the needful locations you can identify in your floor plan and add the column, and then follow the next tool, that is the beam tool. Again I'm explaining the same, that all these tools which I'm taking, they are in the for the basic parameters I'm talking about. All their details and the additional settings which you can see advanced settings, I'll explain them little bit later. So till then, please complete the exercise before you continue for the next lesson.